Okay, hello everyone. It is November the 13th, 2025. My name is Gloria Chan. I am the founder and head of school at the Springwell School. I'm so pleased to have you all at our virtual open house, the first one of the season. Um, Many of you on the line on the virtual call, have shared with us students who have learning challenges, different diagnoses, and also education consultants that are supporting families that are neurodiverse and have other needs. And so, um, I want to make sure to tailor the conversation around your child, your students. And so I will first start off by saying that the Springwell School is an approved non-public school here in Montgomery County in Silver Spring. We are within the Beltway. We are approved for kindergarten to the ninth grade, and the plan is to continue adding a grade until we are fully K through 12. Um, we were founded in 2020. I started the school in 2020, and it was not specifically a school for neurodiverse kids. That's not that wasn't even on my radar. Prior to starting Springwell, I spent 7 years as a professional coach, a life coach, executive coach. I was working with leaders who were on their journey to find greater fulfillment, greater career fulfillment. And what I found was like working with folks from their 20s, 30s, transitions in their 40s, and into retirement age, into their 60s, all were really struggling to unlearn beliefs about themselves and about who they are. So much of how our world is constructed and how schooling is constructed is that like we're just looking externally for approval. Um, Approval from our teachers, approval from standardized tests, approval from our parents, ultimately approval from our industries and what's expected of us. And so as I was having children of my own, I thought to myself, there's no way I'm going to condition my kids, or even just generally, there's no way that I can conceive of teaching kids things that they'll need to unlearn later in life. That just didn't make sense to me. So when I envisioned founding Springwell, I wanted a school where um, students' inner spark could be protected and strengthened, that the school would hold space for their inner spark to grow, hold space for their own curiosities. And I looked at um, education models that really took the child very seriously. So progressive models, including Montessori, Reggio Emilia, and the Waldorf, all of those like post-war, very humane ways of seeing the child. And as the school grew, lo and behold, we attracted neurodiverse students, neurodiverse families, neurodiverse staff, and all of a sudden realizing that like I myself am neurodiverse. So the way that we see neurodiversity at Springwell is that we are a quirky, loving, super creative school that allows children to be who they are, to understand their
Mm,
own physical needs, to understand their own brain and how it functions, to be able to work with their challenges and differences, but also allows them to be wildly creative and allows the curriculum to flex and expand as far as the child wants to flex and expand. So when I look at our upper elementary and our middle school classrooms, it very much does feel like a quirky little small liberal arts college where they are developing their critical thinking skills. They are writing their own papers and have their own theses. It's just a really exciting and loving place to be. I will stop there because I know that Rachel, a current mom of ours, has time limitations. So I want to make sure that we can give you the perspective of a current family, and that you all get to ask her any questions. So I'm going to go ahead and spotlight Miss Rachel.
Okay. Can everybody hear me? Okay. So, and I can go a little longer, Gloria.
Okay.
But like it's hard to know where to start, except to say that Springwell really changed our lives, it changed our son's life, and it changed our whole family. As a result of finding a place for him. It was the eighth school that we've been to. We had been to a lot of schools, trying to find a place that would work. And it was, our son is like, he's, he didn't, even this neurodiverse label, like, I feel like there's a real tendency nowadays to just sort of put people in different categories. And he really didn't fit in any of these categories. I mean, he had the autism one diagnosis, but yet he's an athlete, and he seems like he can kind of get by in a general ed environment, but he really can't. He kind of masks to get through. So we really dealt with quite a lot because we didn't want to move him this much. We were really trying, but we were getting so many different. Um, Once we had this diagnosis, or people said you need a really rigid environment, you need a reward system, you've got to have all these different things. And in fact, we were advised against a flexible environment like Springwell. Um, but again, I mean, it's just, I don't think it's prescriptive, like necessarily. It's just for whatever reason. Well, I have a few good ideas, but I think for our child, um, if he's mentally engaged or physically engaged, that's like the trick. Um, and so as opposed to having him sort of white knuckle it through being really bored, or having to sit still, or um, being with kids who had different challenges that didn't fit with his challenges. um, we just found a place at Springwell where it really felt like they would respect and appreciate and value the child. I mean, to not make him fit into an environment, but to make the environment work for him. Um, which I think a lot of places say they'll do, but they don't, and this place really does. So, Miss Ileana is the upper elementary teacher, where Benjamin, our son, is, and like the first, it was day 3, I think, of when we moved to mid year. Um, he was actually at a program in Montgomery County Public Schools. That's like for the used to be called the Asperger's program. They had like half the day in gen ed and half the day in like a small group. That particular cohort was it was tough. So anyway, make a long story short, day 3 when he was at Springwell, like I got this notice that there's like a new contributor to the Springwell newsletter, and it's by our son writing about what was it, like the sports. He's sort of sports obsessed. It was like he like wrote a whole column about, I don't know, draft picks or something like that. And I was like, oh my God, this is genius. Like they found something that he wants to do, and now he's like has a sports column. And like how brilliant was that they figured that out. And just things like that. It's like, so I'll tell you, like, except for sports camp, it was the first I dropped him off for that observation, or well, shadow day, where he could come. And I picked him up that day, and I don't know if it was Gloria or Ileana, the upper elementary teacher, who is a remarkable teacher. If anyone is looking at upper elementary, she is very unusual. Um, they're like, "Oh, your son's amazing," and I was like, "Really?" Like, no one's ever said that except for like the coach, and the sports. So I was like, I couldn't believe it, and they get him, and they like let him be him, and he's different from the other kids. Like, no one else, I don't think, is into the stuff he's into, but like that's okay because he has other languages that he can speak now besides sports. Like, he can, be friends with the kid who's really into Greek mythology in his class, or whatever. So, um, but again, I would really say, like, this term is so overused, but in Springwell it's true. Like, it really does feel like a family. I think part of that is there's like the mixed age. So, I'll see that like Benjamin's like looking after like some of the little kids and teaching them. And there's just it's just a really close knit and comfortable place to be, and just feels really accepting and really loving. And it's like, that's like the magic sauce. Um, so, I remember when we were at the graduation last year, and all these parents were like crying and speaking about how important the school has been and what a lifesaver it's been for them. I mean, and we were like at the point where I was like, maybe we need to homeschool him. Nothing is working. And I'm so glad that this was just like such a blessing that we found this place, and we're like so happy to get the word out about it, because it's a special place for a special type of kid. um so I do think it's like the curriculum, for example, in the upper elementary is like so advanced. I mean, I sent it to my in-laws, who are like college professors, are like, this is like a college level course. I can't believe he's really doing this. So, but it's like, again, it doesn't underestimate the kids. It sort of feels like, okay, if you want to learn about this, great. We'll learn about that. And anyway, so it's an exceptional place, and I will say Miss Ileana is an exceptional teacher. She's very like a one in a million teacher. So, yep.
Thank you so much, Rachel. I want to just open it up to questions before Rachel has to leave. I mean, first of all, as people think of questions, I absolutely love this child. I mean, I think we all do. When I've been talking with other parents about, oh gosh, there was a child who came to our school during the pandemic and she spent 1 year with us, and her daughter remembers Springwell as the place that she wants to return to. And she's like, I don't know what it is. And I told her exactly what you just said, Rachel, is like, I actually think the special sauce is love. Like, I really do. Um,
Well, and also like joy. I mean, I think they're having fun. I think there's a lot of joy in learning. Like, I think they're just having fun. They're exploring. They're kind of, you know, it's not like they just have to, so many environments where you just have to like grind through.
yeah. Does anyone, if you have a question for Rachel, feel free to just unmute yourselves. I have Rachel on Spotlight, so you'll maintain your visual privacy. And then if not, you could also type it in. Any questions?
And also, anyone, please feel free, if you don't have anything at the moment, you're welcome to, Gloria, you can share my email or whatever, and you're welcome to follow up with me. I'm happy to talk to you in more detail about our experience and what we found. And um, you know,
Just have a question. So you didn't mention how old or what grade your son is.
oh, sorry. So he's 9, and
Okay.
he's in the 4th grade now.
Okay. And so I hear that you're in Montgomery County Public Schools. So
Yeah.
uh how did you feel about switching to such a different dynamic I know it turns out it's better for your son,
Yeah.
but from the traditional school and kind of wrapping your mind, because I'm just
Yeah.
trying to wrap my mind, because I always think about the traditional school. I went to a traditional school, and getting everything educationally that they need, and especially to move on to higher education. So can you just talk about that
Yeah. I
decision?
mean,
Mhm.
look, I think to be honest, we were like kind of desperate. I mean, because like every, he was like so miserable that he was in the nurse's office every day pretending to be sick so we could pick him up. I mean, it was just like, it was really like, we were like, we got to do something. So I don't know that it was like even, um, we were at the point where we were like, we just got to find something. But that said, I mean, if you get a chance to observe how old is your child, Crystal?
She's 10 going on 11. She'll be going into sixth grade.
Sixth grade. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I know that's a different teacher, but I mean, they have that shadow day. You can observe yourself, the teacher, and see what you think about the environment. I mean, it is totally different. Yes, it is totally different. Um, but I think it's very out of the box, and it works if you think that your child will be comfortable and can kind of like you know, I know for Benjamin, it took him like, he sort of like had his like backup for a little bit, like wait, kind of just like expecting things to not go well, and then it slowly, like kind of relaxed into it. I mean, there was definitely like a period of that, but
I might be able to help a little bit with that. I'm Jean Bigelow, I'm the
sure.
academic dean. And one of the things, it's not all everybody just does what they want all day and has fun. There's huge structure behind the scenes so that we create an environment where kids get excited about their learning. Um, every morning, the students work on foundation skills. So they learn literacy and numeracy skills, but at their level. So we are not slotting kids into some arbitrary level. If you're in the third grade, then you're going to do third grade material. Well, if you're in the third grade, but you really have that whole geometry section down, we're going to take you to the next part and the next level of learning. But boy, if you're struggling with those phonics and sight words, we're going to meet you where you are. And in a multi-grade classroom, that's really doable. Then every afternoon, we work through units of inquiry in the social studies and the science, integrating art and creativity into their learning. So students are learning about the Maryland curriculum, but in a way that they think is really fun because they're showing their learning in different ways. They might be making a play, they might be doing a mural, they might be presenting and giving speeches, they might be doing a debate. We work to students' strengths and get them to be good inquirers and ask hard questions, learn how to be critical thinkers, problem solvers, and creative finding creative solutions to what's going on in the classroom. So we're following the Maryland curriculum, but at the student's level. And because we're a small school, we can do that. We've got a teacher with 4 or 5 kids, up to 8 maybe, with an assistant in every classroom. So the students are getting incredible amount of attention individually. And as Rachel said, they are known for who they are. They are understood. The social emotional piece, because that's pivotal. You want your child to love their school, love their teacher, and they will do anything for someone they adore. And so that relationship that the teachers build with the students is pivotal to their happiness and success at school. So we do a lot with social emotional learning. We allow our students to have a big voice in their learning, and we're really respectful of that. And yes, we've got a lot of kids who are a little bit quirky, and we want them to enjoy who they are and be their best people, right? And so we enjoy that and foster it rather than try to make the square peg round hole. I blathered on, but I think that we really are following the curriculum, but in a way that's meaningful for students and it works.
Perfect, thank you. And let's go to Megan and then Adriana. Megan.
Um, Thank you, Jean. And Rachel, I had a question about this is kind of a little bit on the other side of Crystal's question is like um Springwell seems to be such like a loving and unique environment, and do you find that it is then a struggle to be put in other environments like for camp or in different situations, or does the Springwell environment build the confidence that they can just like be themselves out in the world and feel safe?
Yeah,
So yeah,
I would say it's the latter. If you can think about your own development in terms of like, I always have to think back to a grown-up lens so that I can understand it. At Springwell, we're at a place where everybody matters, like every child matters, no matter if you're 4 years old or 14 years old or anything in between. So Jean was absolutely right. They have the opportunity to develop their voice at the beginning of every school year, we talk about the school rules and what it means to each of them to care for themselves, one another, and the environment. And each of them has a voice to develop our school constitution together. And that's not just school decision making and conflict resolution, but that also is incorporated throughout how we deliver the curriculum. So I recall some of our upper elementary students and also even the middle school room where they're not just presenting the assignment back to the teacher, they are workshopping their writing together. They're sharing their designs together. They're collaborating together. So there's always this developed muscle of, gosh, like my voice matters, my ideas matter. Um, and I have a sense of agency to negotiate with other people when, hey, you're doing something that I don't really like, or maybe we have two ideas and let's meld them together. So they are consistently working through all of these skills, whether it's in recess or if it's in the classroom. And that kind of confidence, you cannot, it will only help them strengthen themselves when they go into a larger environment. They'll have that self-confidence and that ability to speak for themselves and think of the community as well. Is that helpful, Megan?
Yeah, and Rachel, is that your experience with?
Oh, let me spell
yeah, that's my experience. I felt like he needed the safe space, basically, like that cocooning feeling where he could just sort of, you know, I just felt like he was sort of like, I don't know, in like fight or flight mode or some sort of like, you know, masking all day long. And by the time he got home, he was so exhausted and angry, And so that's, it's just, like I'm sure it's not 100% perfect all the time, but I never hear any complaints. He loves the school. He's upset if we're late. He wants to get there like early because they have a morning movement and he likes that part of it where he can run around and he will tell you he loves his school, which he told me that he hasn't loved his school since he was 3 and he loves it. So it's like, yes. And I do think that it's for sure helped him in other areas, and I feel like it will help him, but just to have that sort of like touchstone, that's a um like I said, a safe place.
Thanks, Rachel. And Adriana, you had a
Yeah,
question.
yeah, kind of how Rachel, you were just talking about masking and stuff, which is a big issue for us. Do you feel that, and how that can also turn into challenging behaviors, sometimes at home, but also eventually at school?
Right,
How do they handle behavioral challenges? A lot of our neurodivergent kids will go in like fight or flight,
right.
externalizing behaviors. How do you
So
find the school
well,
handles
so
that?
it's interesting because I had that same concern too. That was always the worry, right? And the thing is, I don't know, when we met with Gloria, she's like, people really don't have those behaviors here.
Mhm.
um because it works and they don't have that. We're like,
Right.
okay, well, we'll see if that's really, cross our fingers. We'll hope so. There, to be honest, like, so the first few days, um, we did have a couple incidences. Remember, Gloria? anyway, there were a couple
Remind
things. There
me.
was,
Yeah,
well,
remind
I
me.
think there was something with somebody, he thought someone was taking the ball from him. And I think he was like push the person, like, you know, again, I think a lot of these sort of like, there was like ingrained reflexes in him from just a lot of experiences. And, you know, I don't know, there was a little, some of that that was, that had come up. And then I don't know like exactly how, but it did, they sort of, we talked about it and it dissipated, and we haven't had any of the behaviors that we've had, uh you know, and I assume, you know, part of that is the maturity, but a big part of it is, you know, a huge part of it is the, you know, the fact that he's somewhere where he feels, he respects the teacher and he feels like he has the teacher's respect.
Mhm.
I think that's really, I think the relationship, I think Jean talked about that, I think the relationship with the teacher is huge. um so he doesn't feel like he's like being talked down to, or you know, or you know, playing a game with a system, you know, to get what he
Mhm.
needs. He's just sort of like, you know, being valued and heard.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's kind of like amazing that the behaviors have gone away. I mean, really, we really had, I mean, we had behaviors at public school. We had much worse behaviors when we were at the autism program, because of that
Mhm.
was such a hard
Mhm.
environment.
Mhm.
So, but we have no behaviors, and even it's translated even in the base. He plays on a, you know, competitive baseball team, and it's even gotten much better there. You know, and I think this is just, it's sort of been a little bit of like a reset for his nervous system.
Mhm. Yeah, if they're feeling safe, then no behavior.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you so much, Rachel. And
yeah,
I would totally agree with you that I would say it's not just, you know, that teacher who is amazing. But it's part of the ethos of the school of how we do conflict resolution, how we do emotional regulation, is that we deeply see the child, and we're not, there's so many times when we have new students and there's a behavior and we'll say, you're not in trouble. No one's in trouble. Just tell, we're here to help you.
Mhm.
And just those words alone will like soothe the system, and then we just figure out what went on. Um,
yeah. No, I
and
know. I mean, we were in the principal's office all the time in the local public school, and you know, and it's sort of, I'm sure, this feeling of like being marked and being the bad kid, and you know, and all of that. So there was a lot to sort of, you know, get over. I guess I don't even know if that's the right term, but unlearn or whatever. Um, so I wanted to say I'm gonna go, but I truly wish all of you like the best of success on this journey. And if Springwell is right for you or not, please feel free to reach out. And I guess you can, Gloria will share my email, or yeah. So best to you. I know what it's like. It's really, it can be a real heartbreak, but you'll get there.
thank you so much, Rachel, for joining us. And I will plug in your
Sure.
email. Thanks for sending that for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see how to get it. Figure out how to get off of the. Am I still
Uh,
on?
yeah, but if do you need help? Here.
No, I think I can do it.
Bye, bye,
Lost.
Rachel.
Bye.
Okay, so we have a question from Adam about how is SEL actually delivered by Springwell teachers? Is it just another class with a lecture or activity? Um, I can take this one. So for us, safety's first. For us, safety is first. So physical safety, emotional safety, sense of belonging, period. Um, so it's infused throughout the entire ecosystem. It's infused throughout the day. Um, we start I think it's not uncommon for schools to start with morning circle check-ins and closing circle reflections. It's not uncommon for us to do gratitude for one another during circles. If there is an altercation or a conflict, we staff will oftentimes allow the children space to work it out, to flex those muscles of just practicing listening to one another and speaking their truth. Um, we will only step in when we feel like it's not headed um, in a productive direction without grown-up guidance. So if they need guidance, we'll help them. If they need to calm their systems first, we separate them. When they're ready, we'll let them air out their grievances and their perspectives, and we'll make sure that the students can hear one another. And we'll work it out so that they can collaborate to come together with a mutual agreement. And if all of grown-up life were like that, I feel like we would be in a pretty good place in terms of society. Um, like Miss Jean said, our ratio is wonderful. Right now, our middle school plus ninth grade classroom has 6 kiddos and 2 team members, a lead teacher and a teaching assistant. Same with our upper elementary, 6 kiddos. So those classrooms are 1 to 3. Right now, our lower elementary class only has 4 kiddos. So it's 1 to 2 in that classroom. So there's a lot of teacher support when it comes to socio-emotional learning. In addition to that, I'm always accessible to the kiddos. There was right before I was trying to get here, we had a middle schooler come into my classroom and said, Miss Gloria, can you please help me calm down? Um, and I sat with her, and I have my own bag of coaching tricks where I can help students figure out what exactly it is that's bothering them, and I will give her the tools right in that moment to figure out what part of her is anxious, what is happening, what does she need, and then I can give her prompts so that she can figure out for herself what her system needs to be calm. And so there's a lot of beautiful support throughout. So no, there's not a class or lecture. There might be some activities in circle, both in classroom circles and school circles, but there's also ongoing support. There was one time where my daughter was in upper L and something happened, I can't remember, where she felt like she didn't belong in recess or something. And she was crying to me. And I went to the classroom teacher and I said, this is happening. And it was Miss Ileana, and Miss Ileana was like, well, that sounds like a big enough issue that we should pause class and just talk about it. And that's exactly what she did. She was like, there's no learning without safety. So she paused class. The 6 of them had a little discussion about what happened. They came to a resolution, and then they went back to class. So it is flexible enough to take care of the students. And we know that there is no learning without safety. So that's how I would answer it. Miss Jean, did I miss anything? I'm going to spotlight you in case you want to say anything.
Yeah, what we know about social emotional curriculums and stuff is they're all well and good, but they really don't address the kids who need social emotional support and help. And what we have found is it's most meaningful and the learning takes place when you integrate it into the life of the classroom. So the teachers will notice something in a classroom and, how to be a good listener, how to make eye contact, how to listen respectfully and ask good questions, how to solve disputes, all those things. And as Gloria said, we'll create activities where the children practice these skills in the moment rather than, okay, we're all going to learn about social emotional learning and here's a workbook page to do, because that does not teach the kids that need explicit learning to uh, be more socially, emotionally aware and astute. So dealing with it in the moment where it has meaning for the child is the most productive from what we've discovered in our teaching. And we can reflect on it. There's lots of reflection at the end of every day. They have a closing circle where we say, okay, well, we really tried to work on taking turns today, or we really tried to work on including everybody at recess. How did it go? Any hiccups? Anything good? So it it works very well. And the key is the kids are known and heard, and their challenges are addressed in the moment rather than leaving them till you get to that part in the unit, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I'm wondering if there are any other questions. And if not, I did want to ask Miss Jean to talk through. Um,
I just had one small
yeah,
question.
go for it,
Follow.
Adriana.
You guys, it's because your children's child-led, I think I know the answer, but do you have a flexible attendance policy where, like, if a kid is dysregulated and he probably shouldn't be in school, we should keep him home that day? That's allowed.
Yes, and sometimes something will happen and there'll be a blow up at school. We had an incident last week where somebody forgot himself and bit somebody.
Mm.
And we just go home for a reset. We just take the rest of the day. We think about it. We remember we keep our bodies to ourselves but it's not a punishment. It's
Yeah.
we need to reset. Sometimes when your child wakes up and it's going to be one of those days, why
Hmm.
put them into the environment where it will go to
Yeah.
ratchet?
Huh.
So keeping the child home and resetting and doing things that help calm his nervous system and make him feel good. Now, saying that, attendance at school is really important because we're learning, but
Of
you've
course.
got to be able as the parent to use those moments to allow them, because you're setting them up for failure, sending them to school when they completely cannot collect themselves and be in an environment with other people.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We struggle greatly with the county on this. So,
Yeah.
yes. Okay. Thank you for answering.
I would also segue to say that um, there's a high level of adapt of working with the families because we are so student centered. Like the families are the expert in the kiddo. Um, and we're also very collaborative in working with other experts and advisors that you all have on your teams. So therapists, OTs, all of the things, um, so that we are giving the students the incentives and the things that make life easier at school. And so you all will have a lot of access to teachers, maybe like you've never had before, like drop off and pick up. Our teachers are there to say hello and give you a sweet anecdote of something that happened with your kiddo. Um, there will be um, formal progress reports that really you shouldn't be surprised at because we're giving you updates throughout the session. And th so 3 progress reports throughout the year, 3 parent meetings throughout the year. But really, you can have access to our team and to our administration however you would like to engage. So some people text with us, some people email with us. We just are very, you know, we
The other thing that we do is that 3 times a year we showcase learning, and the students have an opportunity to present to the families and each other the learning in the different units of inquiry. So they might present some of their science or social studies, but it's not the old-fashioned create a triboard, do an essay, pin it to a triboard. It could be demonstrating a skill or creating a video to show their learning or do something else. And it's really exciting because the kids are so proud of what they've created or the problem they've solved that they can hardly wait to show each other and their parents. And I think that's why Rachel thinks we're doing college level stuff because we're asking kids to do something with the knowledge they're learning, create something, make the world a better place because of what you've learned. At the end of a unit of inquiry, we sort of do a so what? So why have we learned this? What can you do to make our little world, the bigger world, a better place? And in today's world, I think that's a pretty positive way to look at things. We don't know what the careers are going to be when our children graduate. Haven't got a clue. Look at how they've changed. Well, I'm quite a lot older than all of you, but since even I graduated. So really, we want to prepare our students for whatever they see when they are finished high school, university. We want them to be problem solvers. We want them to be critical thinkers. We want them to be creative. And an environment like Springwell allows that to flourish. And as Gloria says it, we don't want to dampen whomever they are. We want them to be able to show us and be proud of it and develop that confidence so they can go out into the world they find themselves in and do whatever it is they're meant to do.
Miss Jean, we've talked a lot about kind of socio-emotional support and the loving nature of the community and a sense of belonging. Can you talk a little bit about the academic rigor and what that means at Springwell, how we assess the students, how we communicate that to parents, like the rubric for math and ELA and all of that?
Yeah. So at the beginning of every year, we've got a scope and sequence in the foundation skills, literacy and numeracy for each grade. And so at the beginning of the year, we just figure out where that child is in these various areas. So I think I mentioned geometry. So we have a geometry unit, and then we do a pre-assessment. Where is this child in the scheme of things? Are they working at a second grade level? Are they working at a fourth grade level? Are they working at an eighth grade level? And we figure out where they are, and then we move them along that scope and sequence to progress their learning. Similarly with literacy, not every student starting grade one can read or read a little bit. Some are reading chapter books, some are still learning their letters. So on this scope and sequence, we highlight the skills, we highlight where every child is, so we know where we need to take them. And then we incorporate that into the units of inquiry. But so the scope and sequence is good because it challenges the kids appropriately. It's not, as I talked about before, round peg, square hole. We're meeting them where they are and we're moving them forward on those foundation skills. And then we have, as I said before, the units of inquiry where that's really enriched. The kids can learn a lot about different social studies and science topics, and they bring in their foundation skills, but we challenge them to solve a problem, create a way to show their learning, and use the things they've learned to make the world better. So it's highly enriched, and we build on the Maryland curriculum. My experience with the Maryland curriculum, they're trying, but they're not doing much with constructing a good program where kids ask questions about the world and get excited about learning about the world around them. So that's our job is we create provocations. One school I consulted with, and Gloria's heard this example 152 times, but in the second grade, they had to learn about water and water resources and the water cycle. Well, in a typical classroom, you might just, okay, here's the water cycle. Water is scarce around the world. We all need to take care. And the kids are going, okay, great. You know what? This school says, okay, I want you to think about how much water you would need to use for a day. You bring a container to school tomorrow that will hold enough water for your personal use for the day. And the kids come to school and they've got milk jugs and buckets and containers of all sorts. And the teacher walks them down about a mile away to the well. And they've got a big 45-gallon barrel and they pump the water into their containers. And then they have to walk back to the school. And water's heavy. And they probably don't notice that until they get there. And then they have to use that water. So they have to wash with it. They have to water the garden. They might have to wash their clothes. And of course, the water's gone by recess. And then they walk back to the well, but the well is dry. So they have to walk to a different one, and this goes on all day. And then they sit down as a class and say, and these are 7 and 8-year-olds. What do you think this is about? Well, lots of places in the world doesn't have enough water to meet the needs for the day, and it's often the children's job to go and get the water. And so it's got a concrete meaning. And then we say, so what? So what do we need to do? Well, I guess we need to, you elicit from the kids, we need to conserve water. How could you do that? And then the kids brainstorm and they think, well, maybe we turn off the tap when we're brushing our teeth, or maybe we have a short shower than a long, deep bath, or, all the things that kids would come up with. But it has more meaning, and the learning is deeper. And the kids discover it, I mean, without having to be lectured to and told. And that's the kind of thing that we try to do at Springwell. We kind of provoke their learning and interest and through the activities we create, and then the kids can show their learning in a variety of ways. I blathered on. Does that?
Yes, that's perfect. Does anyone have questions on like the academics for Miss Jean? Or any other questions?
Oh,
I'm
Megan,
curious about I don't know if y'all have had a class go completely through Springwell, but like in terms of like how they adjust to a more traditional form of learning, or like college, or another or a high school. Like, have you seen a student go from Springwell to a different institution, and how that transition has gone in terms of academics?
one of the academically kids are fine. They may not be exactly at ninth or 10th grade level because we're teaching them where they are. And it's rare that a student is up at grade level or above in every little thing. The kind of kids we have at Springwell, the quirky ones, the kids that are doing it a little bit differently. So some of the kids are much more advanced, and some skills are a bit lagging. But I think that's normal in any school. They just disguise it better, quite frankly. Um, when you get to university, you're finally taking things you're interested in for the most part. And kids who are neurodivergent often flourish when they get to university because they're finally with people of similar interests and similar curiosities about a particular area. So my experience with kids with any differences is they sort themselves into university, into where they want to be and where their interests lie. Most kids will thrive when they're studying stuff they love. And there is, we still test students, we still assess, but we do it in a warm and supportive way. There's no tricks. And so if they go to a high school that's very traditional, my question would be, why, if this is working? Because university will be okay. Our goal, as you know, is to add a grade every year. So our hope is that our students graduate from 12th grade at Springwell.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Going once? We don't have to take the full time, so this is your time.
Just one little one, sorry.
Yep, go ahead.
At the beginning, you said that you were an approved non-public school in Montgomery County. That's just like you're an approved private school, not
It's a
like
private school. Yeah, it's a private
not
school.
like the special ed non-public
Mm-mm.
placement.
Yeah.
You're not. Okay.
Yep. That's a great
So
question.
can you talk a little bit about your facility, the school, like classrooms, like what do you have, lunchrooms or
Yeah,
PE or yeah.
that's a great question.
Mhm.
Thank you for raising that because we are actually gonna move soon. So our current facility, we have 3 homerooms, 2 bathrooms, my office, and some teacher lounge and kitchenette area. The students actually eat in their homerooms, so they get to be in their comfy space. There's no there's no wrangling of like overwhelming cafeterias to deal with. For a while, we had them all sit together in the middle school room because we thought how lovely they get to bond as a whole school together. And in a Springwell circle, which happens every Wednesday morning, the students get to make proposals if they like. And we had students propose that, hey, like, actually, when we're all together eating together, it's quite overwhelming. There are too many bodies. It's too loud. We leave a whole mess just in one room. And so it was a student proposal actually to like eat lunch cozily in their own homerooms where they feel like safe and home and quiet. And at the same time, we gave, and some students also wanted flexibility to visit friends in other homerooms. So we gave that flexibility for students to be able to move about. So that's our current facility. We will be moving um, by the calendar year's end, so by next month, to 9226 Colesville Road, which is just 3 blocks south of us currently. On Colesville, it's going to be right on Sligo Creek. And so we have plenty of outdoor time currently, but we will have even more outdoor time when we get to the creek and the students want to play on the creek, do science, do all sorts of things. So in that facility, um, it's going to be a dedicated space on the ground floor of that church building that's at 9226. There are beautiful northern facing windows in all the classrooms from like radiator level all the way to ceiling. So really gorgeous light. Um, because of our student sensitivities, we are installing dimmable lights. It's not uncommon for you to tour the classroom and and have like it be all dark. So I know we had a admissions consultant who would tell me, Miss Gloria, when the tourists come, just open up all the windows, let the sunshine come in. But it's like the opposite when you come to Springwell because the students are like a little bit vampirical, vampire-ish. And so they'll love the dark. And my assistant actually also loves the dark. So sometimes the office will be completely dark as well. So dimmable lights, beautiful sunshine right on Sligo Creek. There will be enough of a big classroom where we can eat lunch together, where it doesn't have to be so overwhelming. There's a rolling green, beautiful grove right on the property, which will be their recess area, as well as part of the parking lot, which will be just for our like a blacktop where we will put like our little basketball hoop. It is a U-shaped driveway, so it doesn't have any through traffic, and it's recessed far off of Colesville, so there's no traffic there. Um, and that little blacktop area is connected to a little trail that goes straight to Sligo. There is 8 minutes walking distance, a parking lot not a parking lot, a playground, neighborhood playground right on Sligo. And every week we walk to a local park and spend the whole school 2 hours together to have lunch at a park and play. So that's going to be our facilities. Um, Once that we in our current facility, we have a working kitchen that we do borrow from time to time. We try to cook at least once a month. Um, in the new facility, they're still working on fixing their kitchen, and once that happens, we'll use their kitchen, but otherwise we'll have our own like electric things that we can use for cooking type things. I have a question from Adriana.
Nope, sorry, I accidentally hit the button. I'm done.
Okay. I hope that answered the facility question.
I have a related question. We would love to like come and tour. And of course, like I feel like it would be since the moving isn't going to happen until December. I don't know if there'll be opportunities to like tour the new place with y'all in it before like applications are due or anything. Um, but how would we initiate having a tour of where y'all are right now?
That's a great question. And remind me, Matthias is looking at kindergarten for next
Yes.
year. Okay, perfect. You'll have plenty of time to tour. I would say for those of you who are interested in mid-year transfers or have clients that are interested in mid-year transfers, I wouldn't wait until the move to tour because if you're hoping to start in January, I would come in and tour now so that you could see the relational piece. You can see the classroom in action. Even if the actual building will be different, you'll get a feel for the vibe of Springwell because that will not change. Oh my gosh, so there was a departing student. She was at Springwell for like 3 years, and she gave me this gift. She didn't know that we were going to move yet. She built this beautiful, like, version of our logo and this like monument almost of cardboard. And she wrote on it, Springwell isn't the building, it is the people.
Well, I
So
was going to mention something about that, Gloria, because you're right. It really, the facility is the least important piece. It is the people and the feeling you get. So even if you're considering it for next school year and we will be in a different location, come and just look at what's going on and get a feel for what's going on in the various classrooms. Because if it feels like home, if it feels warm and caring, if it feels like it's a good fit for you, chances are it will be wherever they're located. We're not all things to all people, 100%. We are not. But if we fit your idea of what a school needs to be, it needs to be right for you, just as it needs to be right for us. So come and look at the classrooms and talk to the kids and the teachers, because that's how you're going to know. And really, the look of the classroom, it's nice, but it's secondary to the people. And so your student, Gloria, completely got it.
thank you, Miss Jean. Yeah, I would, and for those of you who are interested in, oh, hold on, let me replace this spot. Interested in the application process. So the first thing to do is come tour, come visit, have a conversation with me by phone. I want to get to know you as a parent, as the family. That's also very important to me. Um, just to get to know you as a human. We're human centered, so I want to know you. And then if that's a good fit, come after the phone call, come tour. If that's a good fit, then the next step is a quick application, just your household information and application fee. After that, I send you some links where you can upload your report cards, assessments, IEPs, all of those things, information about your child. Miss Jean will then review that. And if that's a green light, we'll schedule you for a visit. We'll schedule your child for a shadow day, and we'll flex with your child. So for the younger ones, we usually do an hour and a half. And then for our older upper elementary and middle school and ninth grade friends, it'll be the full day by default. We have had some school refusal folks and anxiety folks, and we've flexed to have that be like an hour and a half, 2 hour visit in the morning, and that gives us enough information about how the child would be in our environment. And then pretty quickly, so the admissions committee really is myself, Miss Jean, and the teacher that is observing the child. Pretty quickly, within like 48 hours tops, we will have information for you about whether it's an acceptance or whether we have additional questions, whether the student might need additional support, or if we could not, if we don't have the resources to support your child's needs, then we will let you know at that point pretty quickly. Are there any questions about the admissions process that you all might have? Great. Wendy, did you have a question? I see you unmuted.
I was going to ask about the admissions process. And I was nervous about asking because I had to jump out for a minute to talk to another school. And so I was like, oh, they might have already asked it. So
No, perfect. I'm so
perfect
glad.
timing.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
We have heard from our families. We just had a sweet parent circle, which is usually on a Saturday, hosted at a parent's home. 4 to 6 parents get together and just like share our hearts. And I asked them, what would you want prospective families to know about Springwell? And one of them said that your admissions process is so streamlined and so accessible and so human-centered, um, that we would want families to know that. Because a lot of times I know that there can be structural barriers. And, for example, if there are teacher references, we want 1 to 2. But if that kiddo is, for whatever reason, doesn't have a good teacher reference or a reliable one, or some difficulty, like, we will work with your family. For us, so long as we have enough information to understand the kiddo, that's enough for us. Wouldn't you say, Miss Jean? If there are other ways to like supplement information, let me replace myself with you.
Okay, I think that we need to get to know the child, we need to get to know you and make sure, because we know the school really well, that it's going to work. We do not want to set a child up for frustration and put them into an environment where they will not thrive. So there's no trick to it. We just want to make sure we can serve your child. We do not have special ed teachers. We have teachers who are aware of neurodiversity and learning differences, so we can accommodate lots of that. But if your child needs one-on-one intense remediation, we might not be the right fit. But if your child is average or above average in abilities and can learn, but learns differently, yeah, we can probably accommodate that. Does that make sense?
Any other questions about admissions or what we can or can't serve?
Thank you for doing this work. So
Yes.
important.
Thank you so much. And I would just also echo Miss Jean, if your child can move through an academic program and make progress, that's a really good sign that there's an alignment. We have had students, we will work because we are small, we will always try if we're not sure. So we had a student who needed like extra reading tutoring, and it was virtual tutoring, and we were able to schedule it during the school day so the kiddo wouldn't have to be so exhausted after school and then have to go to tutoring again. So we will flex and work with you. We've had a therapist push in for an hour for one of our students. It's not uncommon for students to also have like extra tutoring at home after school if there's an additional need for it. For us, what's most important is that we have a space where the student feels safe, feels like they belong, and feel like they're excited to learn. That is our core offering. I would also say that some antisocial behavior that is not seeing improvement, that's also something that we can't work with. So example, if there's a child that bolts from school, that's not something that we can handle. We will also, for those who are like kind of in a gray area and you're not sure, we will tell you, like Miss Jean and I will work with you on what might be necessary. And there's also a 6-week trial period with every enrollment, so that a lot of times when parents withdraw, like the entire year of tuition is due. So in this 6-week trial, you can decide, no, it's not a good fit. You can withdraw and only pay for that 6 weeks, essentially. And the same thing from the school side. No, we thought it might work, but here's where we don't quite have all the resources to support the kiddo, and then we'll just part ways, and knowing that we did our very best. All right, let's see. I'm just scanning for faces, unmuted mics. Wendy?
All good.
All good.
I
Okay.
just want to say thanks.
Awesome. All right, hearing none in 5, 4, I'm just so thrilled. I speak on behalf of the entire team that we really truly love the children. We love what we do. It's such fulfilling work. We love our families. So I encourage all of you to get to know us, and if you're going to join our family, that's wonderful. And if not, we do wish you the very best so you can find what you need for your child and your family. You know where to find us. I am at admissions at springwell.school. I put Miss Rachel's email address there, and I'll just type in admissions. That's my email address. And I'm wishing you all the best of luck with your journeys, and hope to see you all soon on campus. Thanks so much.
Bye. Thank you.